I was just picking up my knitting and I found the little Mufasand dude that my partner and I hide for each other in the apartment. I left it on the food that my partner took to work, and I found it now in my knitting because my partner knew that I was going to pick up my knitting at some point or another today. Anyway, hi, welcome back to the Yarn Chicken. As of filming this, we have 2 months and 4 days until Christmas. Yes, it's October, but also it's very nearly Christmas. Christmas knitting is basically like counting in dog years. You have to be prepared that what you think is a year or a span of time is actually just an eighth or a seventh of it. I'm not a dog person, so I don't know the exact math of how dog years work, but I do know knitter's math when it comes to underestimating how much time I have to knit what I needed to knit. So I thought I would send some, not stress, but some urgency in your direction, because if you want to gift knit, you should probably be starting now. So this episode is, if you start knitting now, you'll be done by Christmas, Cool Aunt edition. And I come to this video as a knitter and the Cool Aunt. I have 3 nibblings, great stuff, and I have a Cool Aunt. What we have in common, what I thought the most cool aunts have in common, is a care for human rights, a gorgeous home, and probably working in the public sector, underpaid, and always in a very cold office. So that's the for sure certain place where I want to start. So I picked out 5 patterns that are available on Ravelry for different knitting projects. These are fairly straightforward patterns for intermediate or confident beginner knitter. They are quite small, so they are portable. You can bring them on your commute, you can bring them to a meeting, and you can work on them fairly quickly, and you will see progress fairly quickly. And I have, to start with, 2 sock patterns, because us cool aunts, we are cold. We are climate conscious, so we don't heat our homes too hot. We need a good knitted sock to get us through the day. Bonus point if you're cool aunt person who might not be related to you at all, it's just the cool aunt person in your life. Bonus point if they will wear these socks in a pair of Birkenstocks or Doc Martens. Socks with stocks or docks. That is a cool aunt if I ever saw one. So the first pattern, and sort of what kicked off the series or the idea for this video type for me, was the Melodrama sock by Stone Knits. And the reason I picked this pattern in particular is because I'm knitting it. Look at this. Is this not one of the most gorgeous socks you've ever seen? They are loud, they are quite obnoxious, and you can definitely see that this cool aunt was quite unstressed in the shaft and a bit more stressed in the foot, because the foot is quite a lot snugger. I haven't blocked these. You can see that the ends are still loose. But this is the first sock and this is the second sock. I am switching the colours, the contrasting colours on the heels and toes and cuffs. But this is a pattern from Stone Knits, as I said, Charlotte Stone, the queen of silly, beautiful colourwork socks. These are knit with 3 different colours of fingering weight yarn, sock yarn. I'm using Järbo in Astrid Lindgren, Elon Wikland collaboration, because these are just the perfect melon colours. Where is my black? There it is. These are 75% wool and 25% polyamide, and it's very soft. I'm very happy with it, and I'm very curious to see how these will wash and wear. I modified the pattern quite heavily. It basically just took the colourwork chart from the sock pattern and then did my own thing. I'm working it on a 3mm needle because that is what worked out best with the number of stitches that I had to do. Normally I would do a 72-ish stitch number for the circumference of the foot, knitting my standard vanilla sock recipe that has been handed down to me in generations. But this is a 64 stitch round and a 16 stitch repeat. Does that work out? Yes, it does. Which I think all of the socks that she makes is. So I had to size up because normally I would knit a 2.5mm needle, and this is 3mm needle, but this is also colourwork, so this is a bit tighter than my normal gauge. So the recommended yarn for this is a fingering weight, and the recommended needle size is a 2.25 and a 2.5 because you change your gauge depending on where in the pattern you are. So you can see that the original sock, as Charlotte Stone has knitted, has just 3 melon pattern repeats, so 1 on the leg and 2 on the foot. But I went bananas with the melons. I wanted all of them, and here they are. The reason I chose this is because the cool aunt is probably going to be quite loud, either in her personality or the way that she projects herself into the world, so by her style choices, by her political statements, and the watermelon being the colour of the Palestinian flag has become a clear symbol for the support of the Palestinian struggle as they now rebuild, when they can rebuild, if they can rebuild. And your cool aunt is probably also down with human rights, so make her a pair of Palestine socks, give her a little note that says you donated to a charity supporting children or mothers or schools or a rebuilding or anything that is close to her heart, a charity close to her values, and you will be the best nibbling for at least a week or two. So that is my first pattern recommendation. That plays to her style, but also to her political left-leaning, most of the time, views. She's probably also single and or child-free, hopefully by choice. So she can have absurd socks and be loud. Okay, so I thought that this pattern was available to buy on her Ravelry page, but it looks like it's only available in the book. I did borrow the book from my local library. It's called Joyful Colourwork Socks, 25 New Knitting Patterns for a Fun and Whimsical Footwear. And I thought it was available to buy as well, but it seems to just be in the book. But I highly recommend the book as a gift to yourself, or to be borrowed through the library. So that is a free pattern if you borrow it through the library, or you'll have to pay whatever the book is priced at. But it's a good book, so I can't imagine it not being worth it. But on to another free pattern that is available through Ravelry. This is the Socks About Summer by Maeve Knits, or M-A-V-E, Mave Knits, because there is a Google Drive. Is there? There is. Okay, there is an apostrophe on the E. Mave Knits. These are checkered gingham looking socks with tiny lemons, and I love a lemon pattern. I think that is just one of the freshest, cutest, most stylish patterns to put anywhere. I love a lemon pattern. If I could live in a lemon home, I would. This pattern, as I said, is free through Ravelry. You can download the PDF, and it's also knit on a fingering weight sock yarn. The recommended needle size is a 2mm needle and a 2.5mm needle. So this pattern is knit in a fingering weight yarn with a 2mm needle and a 2.5mm needle. The pattern description page says that it's not for beginners because it does consist of different techniques that are not the first you would learn. So it is standard colour work. It is a picot trim or a border of picot. It's a false hem, but what does make this a more beginner friendly or confident beginner, intermediate, confident beginner, unconfident, intermediate, is the fact that it's knit in the round with an afterthought heel, so you don't have to mess about with the heel until you've finished all of the colour work, and that will help you with your tension. So if the Melodrama socks are more dramatic in their colourway, the Socks About Summer is a more muted colourway that is less loud and that can also be more warm weather appropriate. So if your cool aunt lives in a colder climate, hello Sweden, she will absolutely love these when she is just leaving the coldest, dreariest months and looking forward to summer. These are going to be absolutely amazing. I love that it's also a free pattern. It, I think, was released in October, so it's a very new pattern, and it looks like there are no projects actually yet on this, so I might be one of the first people to knit this if ever I get around to knitting it, but I do have some scraps. Oh my god, you're getting the full stream of consciousness right now. But I have a lot of sock scraps from other projects, and these with the tiny bit of green that you would need for the leaves, the tiny bit of yellow you would need for the lemons, and then a reasonable amount of the light and the darker gingham pattern, I think would be a great stash buster project. For this, you would need to be more specific with the colours because you do need the watermelon colours and a dark contrast. I mean, you could make it with a white contrast as well, or any other background colour, but to make it a Palestine flag, you would need the black. But with this pattern, you could definitely customise the colourways of the socks. And I am so tempted to knit these for myself, but I need to get started with my gift knitting for other cool aunts. I have a few cool aunt friends that I'm knitting for this autumn. So on to the next cool aunt criteria. She has a beautiful home. She appreciates a beautiful place to live and to be and to decompress. And cool aunt with fancy furniture means coasters, because her cool furniture is definitely going to be damaged by a misplaced hot cup of something or a dripping glass of something. So coasters. And I found these adorable little coasters that are the Sweater Flight Coaster Set by E.J. Kirkwood. Look at these. How adorable. And not only are they freaking cute, they also help you try out some different sweater constructions. Each of these 4 sweaters uses a mini skein of sock yarn to create a traditionally constructed sweater. By the time you're finished with the set, you'll know how raglan, circular yoke, drop shoulder and set-in sleeves are created, all without committing the time and yardage to making a human-sized sweater. You'll have used stranded and intarsia colourwork techniques and become experienced at top-down versus bottom-up and seamless versus pieced construction. How genius is that? I mean, you can finish up some of those fancy scraps that you had. Just be sure not to use a too acrylic material because a hot beverage or a hot something might melt the plastic. So use a completely natural fibre to be on the safe side. Best to use wool because that insulates the heat as well. A cotton might bleed through if it's not a very thick cotton. You'll have to use your own judgment with that, but you'll be able to use the scraps. You'll try different techniques and you'll have 4 adorable coasters. Absolutely smashing idea. Love this. And this is also a free pattern. Brilliant. So the pattern calls for a fingering weight yarn again. This is a theme. A fingering weight yarn with a 2.75mm needle. You'll knit in the round or flat, and it is not for beginners either. It is for more experienced knitters, but if you have knitted a pair of socks with a DPN set, double pointed needle set, you will know how to do this because you need to be able to increase or decrease, you have to be able to do ribbing, and you have to be able to knit in the round on a very small circumference, so for the sleeves. But this is honestly, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want, and you can also use a duplicate stitch to make a beautiful colourwork pattern, more intricate maybe than something you would do normally. This is also great for working on your tension in your colourwork. I mean, you're welcome. I'm welcome. And to make these even more safe for actual use, you could knit them and then block them and add a piece of plastic or corkboard into the sweater and just glue it down with a few dots of fabric glue on the underside. So this is the coaster that you'll be sliding into the pattern, and you go like this into the sweater and then just place a few dots of glue on the bottom of it because you don't want the glue dots to be visible through in case the fabric gets discolored or something. But then you'll have a knitted coaster sweater with an actual coaster inside, which is, I think, a very cute idea for your cool aunt in your life. So those coasters are great for your sock scraps. With a little nylon, I guess could be okay. But this next pattern is good for those cotton scraps because these are the Slice of Citrus coasters by Alyssa Brown. So these are knit in the round where the increases make the seeds of the citrus. And then once you get to the outside, you knit a few rounds of the rind, and then you embroider a white thread to make the spokes, the dividers between the, I don't have the word for this, klyfta in Swedish, clove? No, slice? What is it called? Like the wedge, is that the word? I think so. So you embroider the white spokes between the different wedges in the Slice of the Citrus. And this you can, of course, customize to whatever citrus fruit you want to make. So do you want to make a lemon? Do you want to make an orange? Do you want to make a lime? Depending on what colors of the cotton you have, go for it. You could also create a completely new variety. So for example, if you had variegated reddish orangey yarn, you could make a blood orange. That would be really cool. I think your cool aunt would love that. And you can, in this case, make a matching set with either all citrus of the same variety or different varieties. So this pattern is knit on a DK weight yarn, and it uses a 3.75mm needle and a 4.5mm needle. This pattern uses very little yarn, 11 to 12 meters per coaster, so it's perfect for those crochet scraps that you have from knitting that cute granny square vest or the purse that you made during the summer those cotton scraps, perfect for this. And since it is a free pattern, your investment in this is going to be very, very small. So a very little bit of yarn that you already have and a few hours of your time with a free pattern will make a gorgeous set of coasters. And then to the last characteristic of your cool aunt friend or your cool biological aunt or just the cool aunt in your life, she is probably a public sector worker. She works in healthcare, she works in education, she works in the pillars of the community, which means she is underpaid and underappreciated except for the people that she meets because they love her. And she spends a lot of time in a very cold office. She is cool in more than one sense. She's freezing. And sitting at her desk, I can guarantee you her hands are too cold. So the last pattern for today is also a free pattern. I'm starting off strong with the free patterns. It's the Estonian Lace Wrist Warmers by Evelyn A. Clark. This is an old pattern from 2007. It was originally published in Nordic Knits magazine. It calls for fingering weight yarn and it is knit on a 2.25mm needle. So these are, as far as I can tell, fairly quick to work up because the lace blooms a lot. So use a good warm fingering weight yarn. This is an excellent use for those small scraps of yarn that isn't superwash treated or isn't a nylon mix. So if you have a fancy sock yarn that isn't a nylon mix, this would be a great thing to knit with those. So the yardage is equivalent to, half a sock or less per wrist warmer because this length is not even a sock worth. So use the scraps that you have. You can also knit these 2 at a time to make sure that you don't run out of the yarn. You can also weigh your yarn and make sure that you have exactly half of it left for the second wrist warmer. But this looks really beautiful. There are some gorgeous variations on this in the different projects and I think your cool aunt is going to love them. She's going to love the fact that you used material that otherwise would have gone to landfill or would have just wasted away in the back of a cupboard to make something useful for her, something that is beautiful and that helps her think of you sometimes when she puts on her silly socks or when she can actually feel her fingers after 4 hours of typing that report in the government office that she works or the municipality building or the hospital that she works. She will absolutely love these. So that is all that I have for today. 5 patterns for your cool aunt in your life to make for her, and you have time to finish these by Christmas. So start now, go through your yarn, look what you have and see what you can make out of these patterns based on what you already have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down below, what are your gift knits for this season? Do you have big plans? Do you have many small plans? Let me know, I'm very curious. I have a few gift knits that I'm planning myself. But honestly, the more I look at these patterns, the more I think I might just knit all of them for myself because I'm selfish like that. Take care of yourself. Bye.